I mean, you have gold and silver coins, and you can also work with the Perth Mint, get some gold out of the country. We do. I think you're fine doing something like that.
You might recommend that versus, if I'm worried about holding the weakening dollar fund and the
yeah, or you can just you can pick. I think so. I mean, I think if the dollar does weaken, ultimately what you're going to see is gold price strengthen. So I think it's kind of the same trade.
Okay, I got one more kind of odd question for you. I was talking with parents, and my stepfather had his 401k in Euro Pacific Capital, and he just recently switched it. What can I tell them? How can I sell them on putting their 401ks into Euro Pacific?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Why don't you has he read any of my books?
No, but I've been looking into picking those up.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd introduce them to me through the book, let them look at that, maybe give them the website, let them look at some of the videos, read some of my stuff, and then have them call and talk to one of the brokers to find out a little bit more about what we do. And, you try to educate them, and, I'm sure we can educate them. And ultimately, I'm sure we'll be able to win the account because I think, once somebody becomes familiar with the situation and what we're doing, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, what to do with your money.
All right, Peter, I appreciate it. Thanks for
the call, and appreciate the referral if we get your dad on board. Next call. Actually, let me take a quick break. I want to play a commercial and catch my breath, and we'll be right back for the second half of the show.
Euro Pacific Capital is an independent brokerage firm on a mission to inform its client base and prospective clients about economic and market events that could affect their financial security.
Hello?
Euro Pacific Capital seeks to provide solutions designed to protect our clients and their families from the U.S. government and its inflationary practices. The time to act is now, while you still have the opportunity to get your money out of the dollar. It's legal to do so, and after a consultation with one of Euro Pacific's brokers, you will understand how this decision could ensure your financial security. We offer a full array of services ranging from retirement and trust accounts to complete financial planning, checking accounts with or without debit cards, and life insurance, even annuities. With our independent, no-nonsense investment advice that's a cut above the run-of-the-mill commentary that is passed for research for far too long on Wall Street, we suspect investors will find a home at Euro Pacific Capital.
All right, we are back. And I think next up is Paul calling from Missouri.
Yes, good evening, Peter. Thanks for taking my call. My question is, what currency would you place an emergency fund? And my second part of that is, I'm trying to get my father and my grandmother to get out of the dollar. How would I
Yeah, well, as far as emergency funds, I mean, I don't know. The dollar could obviously be one of the currencies. I mean, you're talking about short-term emergencies, and so you might want to have a basket of currencies that would include the dollar in that type of emergency fund. And obviously, if the dollar gets wiped out, if you have some other currencies like the yen or the Swiss franc in there, the yen has been very strong recently. So those are probably good currencies to have in your fund. And if at the time an emergency comes up, if the dollar is strong, then you don't use, you leave the yen alone or the Swiss franc alone, and you simply, fund the emergency spending with your dollars. And if the dollar is completely destroyed, well, then you draw on the yen or the Swiss.
Okay, and my second question is, my father and my grandmother, I'm trying to get them out of their dollar. They have substantially more assets than I do. Besides showing them your books or anything else, how would I assure them that it's not as big as of a risk to invest in some of these bargain companies over in Asia?
Well, I mean, they just have to understand that. I mean, as I said, they can read the books and understand the principles of investing, and you minimize your risk, in long-term investing by buying stocks cheap, by collecting good dividends, and in this market, I mean, everything is going to be risky when you look at it from the prism of a day-to-day trading band. I mean, there's right now, everything is going down. I mean, there's no diversification that can help you because whatever you own anywhere in the world, if it has a symbol, it's going down. But this is a unique circumstance. But, the fact that stocks have been beaten down ultimately means there's a lot less risk to buying. I mean, in the long run. In the short run, because of the volatility and what's going on, there's more risk. So it means that if you're a short-term investor and you buy now, you run a greater risk of losing. But if you're a long-term investor and you buy now, I think you have a much better chance of profiting and a much smaller chance of losing. And as far as on the currencies, I think, you just have to understand that, there's two types of risks. If you have your money in dollars, supposedly, at least if it's in U.S. Treasuries, let's say, or if it's stuffed under your mattress, the risk you run is not that you lose the dollar. I mean, assuming they're not stolen from your mattress. The risk that you run is that the dollar loses its value. So you can have $1 million and you can keep them very safe, and you can still have your $1 million. But if it costs $1 million to buy a pack of chewing gum, it doesn't mean that you did a good job, that you preserved any wealth by just not losing any dollars. If you understand that there's a lot of risk in the dollar and you decide you want to hold other currencies or other assets, then you risk losing dollars. I mean, if you put $1 million into euros, any given day, you might only have $900,000 or $800,000. There's a chance that when you own the euro, you can lose dollars. But from a longer-term perspective, what you've done is you said, look, I think my purchasing power is safer in euros and in dollars, and it's probably a smart bet. But you can build a portfolio of a basket of currencies. You can include foreign stocks and whatever you put in there, and you just have to understand that what you're doing is you're trading the risk of the dollar losing value for the risk of losing dollars, and that's what I'd rather have. I would rather have foreign currencies and foreign assets. I don't care if they temporarily go down, because I know in the long run it's the dollar that's going to get destroyed, and I don't want to own it.
Yes. Singapore dollar and Australian dollar, I'd put those in my basket of emergency fund currencies.
Yeah, Singapore dollar is really good. I mean, it's and Aussie dollar, has been beaten up a lot recently. So my guess is there's not that much downside left in the Aussie and Kiwi. They're starting to cut rates over there. They cut again recently, but the rates are still many, many times what they are in the U.S. And I don't think there's that many more rate cuts coming over there. Meanwhile, I think a lot of these rate cuts, I think the damage to the currencies have already been done. I mean, these currencies are down 40%. I don't think there's a lot more downside. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Anyway, but thanks for the call. And next up is it Gabe in Texas?
Hi, hello, Peter. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. My question is, I've got about $65,000 in cash, and the main question is that I own a piece of property in central Mexico. It's prime real estate. It's worth about $400,000 with the currency exchange rate right now, with the peso and the dollar. And I was planning on holding that land for about 10 to 15 years, so that it appreciated in value, because they're developing that part of the city now. The government. But
what size? Is it just raw land right now?
It's raw land. Yeah, but it's a hectare of land, which is like 4 acres.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what I would try to do probably, I don't know all the circumstances, but if you can actually sell that land, if you can get a decent price for it, I think rather than sitting on raw land and hoping something happens, if you can, buy real estate, buy some of these, commercial REITs around the world that have just been absolutely destroyed, like the one I, talked about in Hong Kong, which is yielding 27%. Why not pick up a fully developed piece of property that you can get dirt cheap, as opposed to holding an undeveloped property and hoping something happens? I think that there are just so many good bargains right now for already developed properties with good tenants on board that you can buy for next to nothing, that it doesn't seem that it makes sense to speculate on raw land when you've got the better use for the money.
Okay. And the other thing is that my cash right now is $65,000, and I was thinking about just putting it all into silver. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, it depends. I'm very bullish on silver. Silver's under $10 an ounce right now, and I think it represents a lot of value here. It was as high as 20. So it depends. If you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, if that's all the cash you have, you might not want to put it all in silver. But I think silver is got a lot of potential. And it'll probably do better than most things that you want to speculate on. But it depends.